All right, let's dive into this explainer and shrink down to a microscopic size for an epic journey inside a plant. Today, we're continuing our exploration of plant biology by looking at tissues, specifically Part 2, permanent plant tissues. If you've ever wondered exactly how a tiny, soft green sprout actually transforms into a massive, sturdy tree, well, you're in the right place. We're going to explore the specialized cellular teams that make all that incredible growth possible.
Here is our quest map for today. We'll start with a quick recap, then look at becoming a permanent tissue, classifying tissues, the dermal shield, the ground core, and finally, simple permanent tissues. Let's get right into it.
Section 1, a quick recap. Before we explore the seasoned veterans of the plant world, let's just quickly remind ourselves what a tissue actually is and meet the actively dividing recruits. Remember these guys? Focus your attention right at the growing tips of the roots and shoots. That's where you'll find meristematic tissues. These young, actively dividing cells are essentially the plant's cell factories. Their only job is to divide, and divide some more, producing all the new cells required for the plant to grow taller and push its roots deeper into the soil. They're small, they're tightly packed, and they're just full of energy. Section 2, becoming a permanent tissue. So, what exactly happens when these young, hyperactive recruits grow up and finally stop dividing? This three-step transformation shows us exactly how meristematic cells mature to form the permanent tissues that do the real heavy lifting. In step 1, they're just dividing. But in step 2, they actually lose that superpower of division. They trade it in during step 3 to attain a definite shape, size, and a highly specialized function. They stop being general cell factories and they become true specialists. The absolute crucial word you need to remember here is differentiation. Differentiation is the formal biological term for this maturation process. It's basically a young cell getting its final specialized job assignment. Think of it like a student studying general subjects and then graduating to become a specialized engineer or doctor. A young plant cell differentiates to become a specialized protector, a transporter, or maybe a food storage unit. If we look really closely at these mature cells on our journey, we see they have very specific structural changes that make them perfect for their new permanent jobs. Because they're no longer dividing, they usually have a lot less cytoplasm and a noticeably smaller nucleus. Depending on their specific job, they might develop super thin walls for letting things pass through or incredibly thick walls for armor. And honestly, this is fascinating. To do certain specialized structural jobs, some of these permanent tissue cells are actually dead by the time they mature. Let's pull up this side-by-side comparison to really nail down the differences. On one side, meristematic tissue, always living, actively dividing, really small size and dense cytoplasm. They're usually isodiametric, which just means they're roughly spherical or have equal diameters. Now, on the other side, permanent tissue. They've totally lost the power of division. They take on various specific shapes, have thick or thin walls, and can be living or dead. They are entirely derived from those young cells, just fully grown up. Moving on to Section 3, classifying tissues. Just like any large organization is split into different teams or squads, permanent tissues are classified based on where they are and what they're made of. Scientists classify these permanent tissues in two main ways. First, by their location. You've got the dermal tissue on the outside, vascular tissue for transport, and ground tissue filling in the rest. Second, they classify them by the kinds of cells present. You have simple permanent tissues, which are made of just one cell type, and complex permanent tissues made of multiple interacting cell types. Today, our microscopic journey is focusing on 3 of these specific squads: the dermal shield, the ground core, and the simple permanent tissues. Section 4, the dermal shield. Our journey inside the plant officially begins right here on the outer surface of a leaf, bringing us face to face with the plant's armor. This armor is the dermal tissue, most commonly known as the epidermis. The epidermis acts exactly like a protective force field. It forms the very outermost layer of roots, stems, leaves, flowers, and fruits. Its number one job is protection. To help out with this, especially on leaves, these cells often develop a thick, waxy, waterproof coating. This is so important because it reduces the evaporation of water, stopping the plant from drying out in the hot sun. Now, down in the roots, this exact same tissue adapts to do the opposite. It helps absorb water and minerals from the soil. Now, what's super interesting here are these tiny pores scattered all across the epidermis, especially on the underside of leaves. These are called stomata. I mean, a solid shield is great, but a plant still needs to breathe, right? Stomata act as controlled gates, letting vital gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide move in and out. And notice how the opening is carefully guarded by two specialized epidermal cells called guard cells. They literally act like bouncers, opening and closing the pore as needed. Okay, so we've successfully breached the outer armor, navigating past the guard cells and right through a stomatal pore. But what kind of fascinating structures are waiting for us in the vast, deep interior of the plant? Section 5, the ground core. Let's move deeper and explore the ground tissue, which essentially makes up the fundamental core of the plant. Once you get past that outer skin, almost everything you see inside a root, stem, or leaf is ground tissue. This fundamental tissue is the ultimate versatile support team. Its cells are tasked with performing photosynthesis to make food, storing that food in places like a potato, providing essential mechanical support, and helping protect the even deeper internal structures of the plant. Section 6, simple permanent tissues. Within this massive inner ground core, we find what are known as simple permanent tissues. These are special because they're totally uniform. They are composed of only one single type of cell. Let's meet the three main types. First up is parenchyma. Notice how these living cells have notably thin cell walls. They're generally round or oval, and a key feature is that they usually have large intercellular spaces, which basically means they aren't packed super tightly together. Parenchyma is usually found in the softer parts of the plant, like the inside of fruits or leaves. They are the ultimate multitaskers. They store food, store water, perform photosynthesis when they have chloroplasts, and they even help heal the plant if it gets injured. Next, we have collenchyma. By comparing parenchyma to collenchyma side by side, the difference becomes pretty obvious. Collenchyma cells are also living, but they have unevenly thickened cell walls. Specifically, they have thick deposits right at the corners of the cells. You'll usually find these guys living just below the epidermis in stems and leaf stalks. Their special power? Providing flexible mechanical support. Thanks to collenchyma, a plant stem can bend and sway in a really strong wind without just snapping in half. Finally, we journey to the toughest part of the plant to encounter sclerenchyma. Unlike the first two we just looked at, these cells are actually dead at maturity. They have incredibly tough, thick walls because they are heavily deposited with a complex polymer called lignin. Think of lignin as the plant world's concrete. You'll find sclerenchyma in the hard parts of the plant, like woody stems, the veins of leaves, and the hard shells of nuts. Their sole vital purpose is to act as heavy structural reinforcement, providing maximum strength and rigidity. This neat summary table brings our entire simple tissue journey together. It beautifully highlights how each team member has a perfectly specialized role that contributes to the whole organism. You've got the soft, thin-walled, living parenchyma focused on storage and food making. Then you step up to the living collenchyma with its thickened corners, perfectly designed for flexible support. And finally, the dead, heavily lignified sclerenchyma, serving as the unbending, rigid armor. They all started from the exact same dividing meristematic cells, but through differentiation, they formed this perfect internal team. And that brings us to the end of today's microscopic journey through the plant's permanent dermal and ground tissues. We've seen the armor and we've seen the support structures, but it does leave us wondering, if these simple tissues just sit in one place, what incredibly complex structures act as the plant's plumbing system? How does water get transported from the deep roots all the way up to the highest leaves? Well, that is a mystery we'll unravel next time when we dive into complex permanent tissues. Stay curious, and thanks for exploring with me.